died. People looked at me like I had landed. And maybe I have, because I have an inner drive like you do to find out the truth and tell it and change it. The changing it is where we get stuck, though. How do we change this game? Before I came here, my husband stood at the airport at 4 o'clock in the morning in Medford, Oregon, with his hands on his hips saying, "Why the are you going again? Don't you know what's happened to us already?" I ended up, after leaving Ecuador for my so-called friends and the infiltration, in the hospital with a heart condition, with the doctors looking over me down at my husband saying, "We're amazed that she woke up. She's got to get to the United States. We don't have the technology to measure her heartbeat that's gone off the scale." And I ended up in a heart hospital in the States with the doctor saying, "You don't have heart disease," which is what I thought I had. They said, "Every time you say the names of certain people and certain incidences, your heart goes off the chart." And so the head of the hospital, the doctor, Dino, came in and handed me this piece of paper, and he said, "You see these pills this other doctor gave you, did you take them?" And I said, "Well, I tend to take them because they make me take the bottles, but I never swallow them, so no, I haven't had any. I'm trying for alternatives." And he said, "Well, don't take them. Do you want to throw them away or should I?" And I went, "Oh my God, am I dead? I mean, what is this?" And he said, "No. You have to go out and meditate for 2 hours a day. You have to eat a Mediterranean diet and go vegetarian." And he started giving me this thing about how to be quiet and how to relax. And I'm here. So the alternatives worked. And even the head of the heart hospital said, "You got to meditate. You got to concentrate on these other healing methods." And I thought, we're under so much stress. A lot of us here, too. Think about what Wernher von Braun must have gone through. The ridicule factor. How dare anybody say something negative about that man when he planned the escape to come to this country? Of course, most people don't know that. So I understand, okay. And yes, he worked as a Nazi, but that man designed a space program and got somebody like me involved. I was a teacher, child psychologist, which probably helped my working in the military-industrial complex. But anyway, he was incredible, and I'm so moved by that man that he changed my life. He gave me the assignment to prevent the weaponization of outer space. How bad could he be? And yeah, we all have our backgrounds, and if anybody in here is absolutely perfect, I want you to come and introduce me to you, because I want to see who you are. But this man really was unbelievable. And guess who one of his best friends was? Timothy Leary. Do you remember Timothy? Harvard professor, several doctorates. Woke a few of us up. And yes, I've tried it all. And my brain isn't burned out any more than his was. I took him to a doctor 2 weeks before he did deanimate, as he put it. And the doctor said, "Wow, this man's brain is normal," much to everybody's surprise. And here was Timothy Leary. I spent the last 6 months of his life with him. He honored von Braun in his book called The Intelligence Agents, which I called Timothy about. I met Timothy in the 60s. And somebody took me to his house, and I remember him patting me on the head saying, "Wow, isn't she cute? A school teacher's come to see us," in this big mansion with people running around naked outside with teepees and paint. And really important people in his house. And he said, "Here, just take this little piece of paper and put it on your tongue." Well, 3 days later, anyway, I learned that you could see through walls. I could see my circulatory system. No wonder they had X-ray machines invented. In fact, I met the person who invented MRIs. A lot of us were introduced to alternative states of consciousness, to higher frequencies, to this little teeny bit of brain that we used, and to what we can do, thanks to Timothy Leary. And so I want to honor him too, because that's one of the people. And then Terence McKenna, who taught us about mushrooms talking to us. Sorry, but these are things that really woke a lot of us up in those days. And Buckminster Fuller. I played the world game with Bucky Fuller. He put me in charge of space. So we really looked at what could be done in outer space and how it could benefit the Earth in terms of providing solutions to urgent and potential problems. That's what this space technology and information sharing is all about. To me, it's actually being classified under this veil of secrecy and canopy of lies, but in fact, we have the tools to solve the problems of hunger, of the environment, of poverty, of education, of enhancing communication, of observing the planet. We have the solutions thanks to this space technology, much of which is being hidden from us, and many of us don't even know about it. So I'm mentioning it to you now, and I'll show it to you in this document too. Bucky Fuller knew about it. This is another great man on this planet who actually wrote the book Spaceship Earth, How to Live and Run on Spaceship Earth, How to Live and Work in Outer Space. I met a lot of those people I won't have time to mention that were working on that issue in the complex, who were conscious about it but needed their job just like today. So Bucky Fuller led me on to the United Nations because he was playing the world game in between. I worked on the First Earth Battalion. Any of you know Jim Channon? Jim Channon and I was a 5-star general. We took it all seriously, General Rosin here. And we actually created projects. I went to Russia practically 30 times. I was commuting. And I was going back in the days of Andropov. I got on the plane. I hear I was the first woman by myself who went there, not as part of a contingency of any kind, saying, what do you all want to be communists for? And then I found out about 1% of them were. And then I met with several. I finally got up to the days of, I don't have time to talk about it. Oh, there's a letter that I wrote to Gorbachev in a book, Dear Mr. Gorbachev, where I said, please say that you will never work on missile defense because it's really the first phase of space-based weapons. And he did say it. And I found over the years that if I wrote to Russia, in fact, it's one line of command there, so you can get answers back. Unfortunately now, with this new president, I don't know what's going on. Russians, I hope you stop doing this. All of a sudden they're saying, I mean, what is it that they want a seat in NATO, extended business and trade, that now they're saying they want to work on missile defense with the United States and these other countries? This article, I mean, this is ridiculous. We have to stop this. This cannot go on because the ETs, the cosmic cultures, can come in. Of course, they're here. They've been here. We all know it. At least most of us know it. But they're obviously waiting until we can raise our consciousness and get smart enough, and we have to all become educators. I'm an educator, to let people know that this has to stop. But we have an alternative now that's technologically, politically, socially, psychologically feasible. It's economically feasible. We have an alternative way that we can go that will transform the entire war industry into a space industry and acknowledge the reality of who we really are on this planet. And that's what you're going to hear about in a few minutes. So I went on now to go, after von Braun died, I thought, where am I going to go now? I quit the industry because I would have had to work on the A-10 bomber airplane. And I went on, I had learned a lot about public relations. Timothy Leary, I said, what's the most important thing in the world to you? And he said, PR. Good or bad PR, you can get your messages out. I learned a lot about all of this in the industry and what the game is that's played. So I went on to work at TRW because they needed a woman, a six-man woman on the team of the MX missile. So I worked on the MX missile. The job creator was about jobs. And through that, I met Congressman Joe Moakley eventually. He was my favorite, maybe the most honest, maybe the only honest congressman out of hundreds that I met. Sorry. And he agreed to introduce the first bill in the Congress calling for a ban on space-based weapons. And I said, why are you going to do this? And he said, because I have people starving in the streets in Boston. Well, this is something that went on and on with me. I kept meeting people. Tom Harkin introduced it. Eventually, Kucinich introduced it. And a treaty, thanks to Paul Hellyer, who is here, one of the heroes of our planet, who had an event where he brought about this many people together in Canada, about 1,000 people. And he introduced the first treaty to ban space-based weapons. Didn't go anywhere because the attention went back to the Outer Space Treaty of '67, which would never have banned all space-based weapons. It was just about weapons of mass destruction, and we're way past that now. Surely you've heard about mind control, psychotronic weapons. You've heard about all kinds of weapons. I mean, I was just looking at pictures of the hummingbird. Have you seen the hummingbird? It's a little hummingbird, but it's actually going to be sent out to do surveillance. But not surveillance for peaceful purposes, to see where the sick waters are. As Jacques Cousteau, whom I work with, also said, this is how we see where the sick waters are from the satellites. No, this is to help start to do what force multipliers do, to aim weapons. Not what satellites are for, not for you and me, anyway. So now I meet all of these people. I don't know what to do with Von Braun after he left. What do I do with this message, that this assignment he's given me to prevent the weaponization of space? Imagine that. So I go to the International Association of Educators for World Peace. I went up to the United Nations. They have thousands, hundreds of thousands, really, of papers on every aspect of peace, the environment, energy, every issue that you can imagine. And I found the International Association of Educators for World Peace. I just called its founder a couple of nights ago, Charles Marchea. He's still alive. Most of the people I called before I came here to get advice were all dead. Oh, God. And I said, oh, does that make me one of the ones left? Am I a senior now? Ooh. So I talked to him, and he's still working on the peace issue. I went on to then start testifying before the House and Senate, thanks to Senator Claiborne Pell. What another hero he was. Looking at alternatives, looking at life after life, looking at all the ways to achieve peace. And one of his aides, who's now a senior in his 80s, helped write what I'm going to give you, along with Edgar Mitchell, the astronaut who now is speaking out on this issue, so courageous. And now, I worked with a man from Boeing Industries that used to be afraid of me. I addressed the U.S. Space Foundation. I was qualified because of my background and credentials to go before many of these very, very conservative audiences. You're so different. You look different. So these audiences that I had, I called this one the 600 Greatest Hawks in America. The Army, Navy, Air Force, Marines, called the Unified Command, Space Command. Now they keep changing their names. Working on the Strategic Defense Initiative, of course, which has many names too, the Global Protection System, anything that you'll buy. If you buy that dead people are collateral damage, I mean, they come up with all these words. It's sickening to me. But I testified before the Congress and the Senate, thanks to Senator Pell, who got me into these situations in the testimonies. And I met the Women's Strike for Peace, who gave me my first office when I quit the aerospace industry, and TRW, where I worked, as I said, on the MX missile, but also on the space shuttle, on weather satellites, different projects for different industries that I then could consult to, testify before the Congress and Senate, and the President's Commission on Space. So I met a lot of space people across the board, most of whom don't really care about space-based weapons, don't even think about it. But that was my mission, to keep space weapons free. Well, after I testified, I found out that some of the peace community were blackballing me from even speaking. I was gagged. It was very gross. One of these big peace groups spread this rumor that I was a Nazi and all of that, a Nazi lover, and also that I was a pathological liar because actually I had booked a congressman for one of their speeches. He didn't want to go. He didn't go, but he didn't tell them that I actually had booked them. He used me as an excuse. In other words, people will say and do anything, and other people will believe anything. So it's very sad that we got splintered in the peace movement. We got splintered in the environmental movement. It's not easy to sort and discern, but if I learned one thing in that Ecuador experience, where we were robbed of everything we own. We no longer own the hotel, the farm, which had a crop circle on it that we got to give to the famous old people of Vilcabamba, who I was the coordinator of the Old People's Association. I hear many of them are dying now because of the infiltration, the pollution, all under the guise of sustainable development. Got it? Eco-development. We go in and invade, do the land grabs, change everything. Oh, we're doing it for the good. Oh, if only I had known, I would never have done this. I would have gone to visit on tourism, not move. And I also bought into it's better, cheaper somewhere else, and the United States is going down. I am so happy to be back here. And I love traveling and going to other countries and meeting people because we're all one. And that was one of Wernher von Braun's messages, and all of these people